it coming through live? Is that coming through live? Are people seeing that on YouTube? Do let me know. Let's minimize that screen a bit. Where do I see your comments? Hey, let's do that. Is it going to work? Let's try it and see. Right, are you guys seeing this? Let me know. Are people seeing this? Can you let me know? Analytics, where are we? What's going on here? Are people seeing this? If you are, let me know, because I have no idea. I hope people are seeing this. How do I know? This is different. I'm using OBS software, which is a new one for me. I haven't really used that before. It's a different type of software for doing live stuff, and I got a couple of mics set up. I'm trying a different microphone here, just because the other one, I find the other mic is so big that it just kind of sticks out so much. So trying this out. This one here is a lot brighter though, I think. This is an old vintage AKG, 57 on the amp. And I actually like the sound of the amp with that mic in as well. I don't like it so direct. I like the direct, but a little bit of that as well. always love that tune. What a beautiful tune it is, Body and Soul. I still don't know if people are seeing this. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Come on, YouTube. Why is that not scrolling? Huh. 7 watching. Hey folks, if you can hear this, do let me know, because I have no idea what you guys are hearing. Or if it's even working. So somebody just text me then. Is that someone telling me that they can see it? It's working great. 8 comments so far. Oh, that's weird, because I'm not seeing that on my end at all. How dumb. Who was it that texted me? Why doesn't your number come up? That's really odd. Anyway, having a corona, because, you know, when there's a coronavirus going around, there's nothing else to do but have a corona. I know, it's a dumb dad joke. My daughter thought that was really cringy, and it is. Only reason I bought Corona is because it's the cheapest one. How the hell do I see your guys' comments? Go live, optional features, add stream info. Huh. How do I see the live chat? Why does the live chat not coming up on here? I'm using OBS software, by the way. This is a new thing for me. I haven't really done that yet. Maybe I can do it on my phone. Oh, there we go. I can do it on my phone. I have my phone here. There's Jason. Oh, Kirsten. Dean. Dig the double denim. Yeah, well, I bought this in England. It's a vintage Levi's red tab jean jacket, and my wife was like, "You can't wear double denim. It's such a bad look." And I was like, "Oh, well, you know, as long as you don't wear the same shade, I think it's fine." I dig it. Yes, we can hear you. It's all good here. Can see. Oh, thanks. Cool. What do you guys want to hear? So I can see this on my phone. So that's kind of a dumb workaround, but it's working for now. Might do some looping stuff, eh? Canadian tuxedo, yeah. Isn't that what Ariel calls it? It's totally his look. And Andy Wood and some of those guys. So, I assume I can see your guys' comments. Oh, there we go. Something off the SCO Ray Charles album. I don't. I've listened to that album quite a bit, but I've never really learnt any of the tunes off it. I probably should. Actually, I did learn one of them. What's it? Da, 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 da. Oh, can't even remember it. I did briefly learn that. Can I play the Cara Gordon? Oh, why don't you ask Cara Gordon to play like Cara Gordon? I'm trying to still play like Nick Granville. Whoever that guy is. It's funny, I haven't really played this guitar much lately. I've been playing that other guitar back there, the SCO, not the SCO, the, what do you call it, the Talman guitar, which probably my number one guitar, the one I play the most anyway. But I've been really enjoying playing this guitar in the last couple of days. And I especially think this is probably my favourite bridge pickup guitar of any of the ones I own. It's just a great... a great rock and roll kind of guitar sound, you know what I mean? Like I always thought of this guitar as a jazz guitar, but it's a... So that's the tube screamer, the TS, and then of course the BB preamp. Which is a very different kind of tone, it's less mid-range, all that kind of stuff. And then I have a T drive. I don't know if that's translating, but the T drive has all those extra kind of low harmonic kind of things going on, which is pretty cool. But actually my favorite way to use that is combine that with the BB preamp. I think the combination of those two works really, really well. I actually like the combination with the tube screamer as well, but I don't like it with tweed amps. I find tweed amps have a lot of bottom end, and as soon as you do that with the tweed with the T drive, it just brings all that harmonic content out. You just end up in trouble. Oh, not trouble, you know what I mean. That sound would sound cool like this. Any tunes you guys want to hear? Anything you want to know about music? Is there any kind of music theory stuff I can help with, or that kind of stuff? I'm seeing the comments on here because I don't know why it's not coming up on my computer. Kind of dumb, but anyway, summertime. I can do that. It's a little bit of summertime. Someone asked for? Sure thing, Bruce. Thank you. Glad you like the sound. Just on the neck pickup, 57. I mean, it's just reverb. I'm actually using a different reverb this time. This is still the Flint, which has been my reverb in my pedal board for a while, but I switched it over to the 60 sound, which is more that spring reverb sound. You can hear that kind of fluttery thing that spring reverb does. Thanks, man. Yeah, I really like that. That's kind of, it's more amp-like, and you know, it's not flash like a nice, you know. People Get Ready. Great tune. I'll play that in a sec. It's not flash like some of these digital reverbs, but it's real, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the whole thing. I wish this amp had reverb in it. I really do. Cool tune, isn't it? I love that tune. Hey Nick, any advice on making blues solos more interesting? Kind of like what to play over changes, scales, arpeggios? Yeah, good question. So yeah, how to make blues solos more interesting? I mean, the thing with blues solos, and this is the same with any kind of solos really, is I'm just going to change the setting here. Yeah, that's better. Now I can see what's going on there. The same thing with blues solos and any kind of solo is if you're playing something that has real meaning and it has actual music, then it'll stand alone on its own merit if it's played with heart and soul. Do you know what I mean? So as soon as you start getting too kind of head space with it all and too much theoretical and too much thinking, then it always just sounds contrived and it always sounds like it's not music. So I'm very careful not to kind of think too much when I play. Now when I practice, it's a different story. When I practice, I'm thinking about scales and arpeggios and all those kinds of things, but for one goal only, like to be able to say something, right? And to me, it's like every sound that I'm playing has a is a flavor, and I want to know how to use that flavor. For example, on that D major 7 thing, I'll set up a loop and I'll show you this. These headphones always jam up. Whoa. Sorry about that. So it's just a vamp of D major chord, right? So D major will be this flavor. And I mean, even something like that, you see there, as opposed to speak something different, right? But that's a certain sound, right? Right, so to me that's kind of happy and bright and, summery, if you will, and all those kinds of things you can use to describe that sort of sound. Well, now I'll play a Lydian sound. So you can see that has a certain flavor as well. Right now I'll play a Lydian augmented sound. So you see that has a certain flavor as well. Now I'll play I'm going to play A major pentatonic over D. So that has a certain flavor again. And you can see all these different flavors that I hate dealing with all this tech stuff while having to play. It's the hard thing about these live streams, so please forgive all the bumps and crashes and stuff. But you see out of that, there's a certain flavor with all of those. So what I would say about spicing up your blues is like, looking at ways that all the different flavors that you can use, they're all just sounds, and implementing them and making them into actual music is the goal, right? So you want to be able to draw on those things. It's kind of like, imagine it like painting, You want to have all the different shades of color to use to be able to express whatever it is you want to express. Check out some great players at their stuff. I mean, Sko is just killer at playing spiced up blues, you know what I mean? Or Bill Frisell, or loads and loads of players. I mean, one of my favorites is Grant Green, and he didn't really play anything flash on the blues, but when he did play, it was just like in the pocket groove, with a beautiful tone, Do I remember what year I first heard Kind of Blue, the Kind of Blue album, and do you still discover anything new from it? Yeah, absolutely. That album, every time I hear it, I hear something different in there, and I don't know why it's like that, but it's deep music. It's incredibly deep music, and I think that's the thing. If I listen to Katy Perry, well, I can listen to that 100 million times, and I'm probably not going to hear anything more out of it, right? Cheers, Katy. Corona to you. I don't mean coronavirus. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but I mean, Corona. The Corona beer has actually been getting a hard time lately, and I mean this is why they say not to label viruses or any of these things. That's why they call it COVID-19, right? And not coronavirus. It's a family of coronaviruses. But now Corona beer has been taking a slamming because of it. It's got nothing to do with them. This was the cheapest beer at the supermarket the other day, and I like Corona from time to time, but that's so dumb, isn't it? It's kind of like when people say it's a Chinese virus. Well, it might have started there or might not have. Who cares? But as soon as you label it that, then that's the problem, isn't it? You start alienating people in groups, and you can't blame groups of people for something anyway. So, cheers to Corona beer. So yeah, when did I first hear Kind of Blue? God, I must have been late teens, early 20s, something like that. And it's a beautiful record. It's not, for me, one of my favorites, but it's definitely up there. But groundbreaking album. How do I approach learning a new standard? Thanks, Samuel. Samuel Crisp. One of my favorite things to do with any tune, well, usually not my favorite, but my first starter point of call is always just to learn the melody. So like with Summertime, I just learn it as simple as possibly. So on and so on. And I'll just learn the tune and be able to play it in one position and learn it from a vocal version, preferably, and one of the original versions. And if I get stuck, maybe I'll check a real book or whatever, but most of the time, that's my first point of call, right? Then I want to figure out what the bass line and the harmony does. And then I like to make up a solo guitar version of it so I can kind of take care of everything if I need to. And that does one of two things. First thing it does is it makes you see the melody and the harmony as being joined, because they really are joined. They're not separate like a lot of... You see it on a lead sheet, you'll see the melody and then you see the chords written above separately. They're not. They're together. They're all part of the same thing. So for me, I want to understand them together. So that's why I learn a solo version of it. And then I'll do some change running and try and get inside the harmony. Then I learn it in another key. And that's really critical. If you can play it on guitar in 2 keys, you're probably doing pretty good. Oh man, you guys are way too kind. Love the way you teach soloing over certain chords using the basic pentatonic scales. Yeah, pentatonics is so great. And it's funny because, I've talked to various horn players about this, and some of the really great players that I've played with, this is how they look at it. Alex Sipiagin is one who's a great trumpet player from New York, and he actually thinks pentatonics a lot. And we did a bunch of workshops where I accompanied him, and he would talk about pentatonics and how he views them, and it was kind of reaffirmed what I knew, that this stuff made sense to me, especially as a guitar player, because we all learn minor pentatonics first, right? And then from there, once we know our minor pentatonics, we, to adjust them and move them into other places is relatively easy, isn't it? I mean, that loop's gone. Okay. I'll get rid of that. Whoops. So there's just an A minor chord looping. Right, that's just A minor pentatonic, but if I play E minor pentatonic... Right, now I moved up to here just so you could hit the familiar shape for a lot of people, but really you want to be able to play that here. So I'm putting in color notes when I shouldn't. I should just stick to the pentatonic. Right, B minor pentatonic. Could be chords. As long as the notes are belonging from that. You can hear out of that, you can create all these things relatively easily just by taking something you already know and just adjusting it. Lee Jackson, message retracted. Well, that let me guess, it'd be a smart-ass comment, right, Lee? Cheers, Lee. I would expect nothing less. Bill Withers. Oh, gee, what's a Bill Withers tune I could play? How does it go? That's just a great chord progression, isn't it, with a cool tune. I've never actually played that before, and I've definitely not really played it solo. I mean, I've played it with a band, but I've never played it kind of in this kind of a setting like this, so definitely never tried to play the melody and the chords together. But I mean, yeah, it's such a great tune. What's the ukulele pedal? This one, the Echoes. So pretty cool. Let's turn this up and you'll hear it. So it's flange delays. So you hear it, the repeats have got the flanging on it. The interesting thing, it almost sounds like chorus, but especially at that kind of speed. And if you turn the rate up, it's pretty crazy, eh? I dig it because it's not too digital sounding. Kind of got that darker analog delay, but not completely dark like an analog delay. Thanks, Kirsten. Hope you guys are well. Hope you haven't killed Lee yet. If you guys, for people who are watching, if you guys don't know Lee Jackson, go and check out Lee's stuff on YouTube. He's got some great jazz guitar stuff and some gypsy jazz guitar, and he's a badass guitar player and a good friend. And we used to hang out all the time and go and have curries but of course we can't do that now, so but that's okay. Tips on how to soloing with chords, start soloing with chords. Yeah, here's a good thing you can do to start soloing with chords is take a scale like a C major scale, just start from G. Right, just straight C major, virtual carry, yeah. So it's just C major 7, drop 2, C major 6, C major 7, C major 6, C major 9, and all I'm doing is just harmonizing all those notes below it. I get this. Now it's hard playing that fourth because I'd prefer the Lydian note in there, but anyway. And then that at least gives you a way to start kind of seeing through the scale. And then the next step to do, take every note that's a non-chord tone and make it a diminished. Right, or that could be diminished as well, even though it's a chord tone, but it's leading to the root note. Now you've got some kind of nice passing things, right? And then try and come up with a melody. Right? Fourths work real good for this stuff. I'm just playing fourths, fourth voicings. So that really works. Yeah, virtual carry. So that's a good idea. And then of course do the same thing on the next set of strings. And just start trying to harmonize melodies. And then, of course, when you're improvising, it's worth remembering that it doesn't have to be difficult. So if I'm on a blues, you could just play something simple. thing to remember with chord soloing is if your melody is crap, then you can harmonize it with chords and it's still going to be crap. So you have to make sure that you're playing strong melodies and with good rhythm. You know what I mean? Like if you're playing out of time or it just doesn't feel good, then there's no point to it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like I'm always very acutely aware of those things, and those are things I work on all the time. Is like, how am I going to get through this? And trust your ear, because your ear always tells you what's. Thanks, Floyd. Your ear always tells you what sounds good, doesn't it? I mean, your ear should always be your guiding factor, right? Now, a lot of people know that I do a lot of sight reading gigs. It's something that I'm known for. I get booked for a lot of that stuff. And truth be told, I'm not the best sight reader in the world and never will be. I know how to do those gigs and I know how to cope with it and all those sort of things. But that's something we can get into another time, unless you guys want to know about it. But the thing with reading that I do, and I don't know if this is the case with everyone, but I'm definitely keeping my ears peeled to everything that's going on around me. So I'm really listening intently, trying to find mistakes in the chart, trying to find what I need to play, not necessarily just what's on the page. Because really, when people are booking you for that sort of stuff, they're booking you to make it good. They're not booking you to kind of just blindly play get a robot to play it back, right? Or like a, Sibelius MIDI file to play it back if they want it exactly like it is on the page. That's not the point of it. So for me, it's like the listening aspect of it is really, really important. So reading, whether I'm improvising, whether I'm playing chord melody, anything, I'm always like, listening really intently to what's going on and trying to say something. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Listen to some Ted Green. Ted Green was such a killer player and definitely someone who was underrated. I find too, it's really hard to play without reverb. Do you, if you guys find that? Because what I find, if I don't have reverb, I end up playing loads more notes. For example, do you see when there's the reverb kind of filling the gap, and what I'll find is if I take the reverb off, all that gap there I would have played through instead of letting the reverb play the gap. Another thing too with this T drive I forgot to mention when I was going through that before, it does a really good rock kind of sound, right? Whatever that bit is, but it does that kind of thing, right? Really, really well. But a cool thing it does too, which is I like doing a lot, is turning the T drive pedal on, but then turning down the volume on the oh great, you do know Ted Green, awesome. Turn down your volume on your guitar, so that's a very different tone than you would get if you had your... It just harmonically is really, really different. So I like that as an approach to using pedals. guys know that tune? That's Joe Henderson tune called Black Narcissus. It's way harder to play than playing Giant Steps. And for some reason, Giant Steps seems to be one of those tunes that people think is like the Mount Everest, you have to conquer it. And once you get a concept on how to play over that tune, it's actually not that difficult. And I don't mean that to be arrogant. It's one of those things that you can learn to do. There's enough information around if you want to. Whereas a tune like Black Narcissus, there's not a lot of information around on that. Like all those chords there, the B section of it, E flat major 7, and it's sharp 11. So all Lydian, right? E flat major 7 sharp 11, F major 7 sharp 11, B flat major 7 sharp 11, C major 7 sharp 11. And then it goes. I mean, those are tricky changes to try and play good melodic content over it. And anyone can play shitty notes over the top of it, but trying to play something decent over that and playing it, the kind of connecting that all together is pretty tricky. Oh yeah, heaps of things I've learned from Ted Green's playing. One thing I noticed with him is that he always does something, whether it be a bass line, the chords, the melody. As long as something's happening, he's okay. And that took me a while to figure out. That I always thought, oh well, I'm only playing lines now, I need to put in some chords. But I noticed that he doesn't really do that. Like sometimes he just play notes. Sometimes he'll play the whole lot. It's sort of as long as something is happening that's keeping the momentum going. So that's something I got from him. I stole some kind of ways of getting around chords that he does. And one of my favorites, I mentioned it the other day, was Summertime. His version of that on baritone guitar is just killer. There's a couple of things on YouTube, if you guys haven't seen them, of him playing Autumn Leaves. If you haven't watched those, then go and watch them now because they're really, really great. And that really washed out reverby thing that he does with where he's playing up here. That sort of stuff that he gets into, that territory. I really like that kind of stuff, and I think that it's really useful. And so I've often avoided that part of it, what we used to call the cheese cutter part of the neck, the thinner strings and up high. Whereas, this is what we were always told was the cash register. Makes sense, right? But Ted Green would play up there, and he'd play whole passages up there. So I learned that from him, and that kind of really angelic kind of reverb that he used. I've stolen that sometimes too. So whole lot of stuff. One of my favorite musicians, period. Yeah, another tune that's really difficult too, and again, I find it way harder than Giant Steps, and yet that seems to be the tune that everyone wants to obsess over, is Cerebhorn by Pat Metheny. I think I've talked about this before, but if I haven't, C major 7, B flat minor, G flat, E minor, and then it goes down a semitone to B major, G sharp minor, the relative minor, then E major 7, D minor. I mean, that's really tricky changes. I mean, try working on that one. Any tips on how to approach funk rhythm? Yeah, one of the best things you can do that I started with, I prefer funk rhythm without reverb too, by the way. Like that real dry. So one of the things you can do to work on your funk rhythm is, first, listen to that kind of stuff, James Brown and all that kind of stuff, and get to know the real deal stuff. But then just work on trying to play all the different possible accents. I mean, it's 16th note grid, right? right? We're playing 16 notes in a bar. So I'm accenting beats 1 and beat 3. And then try and accent the second one. And then. So right, that's the second 16th and the last 16th of beat 1, and same in beat 3. And then. Right. And try and pick out all the different 16ths within that grid. And of course, do this with the metronome and make sure that you can really lock with it. This is weird kind of high-pitched frequency. Can you guys hear that? So that's a really good thing to kind of work on your funk rhythm and then play along to some records. I mean, one of my favorites is Sex Machine, James Brown. And that's all it does, but for the bulk of the track, right? And then when it goes to the bridge. So, if you play along to the track and try, when you've got it right, because it almost buries into what you're hearing with the track, and it's kind of hard to discern what's you and what's the track, and that's when you're really being accurate. And so, I'll work on, one thing I've done, and this may be useful to you, is go into your iTunes folder, put the song in there, so put Sex Machine and put 5 different instances of it in a playlist. And then when you come into practice, just play those 5 in a row, and you've just played the groove over and over and over for about, I don't know, they'll take 25 minutes, right? Maybe depending on how long the song is, of course. And then from there, if you do that every day over about a week, you'll get really, really solid with it. Give it a month, even better still. Do you know what I mean? And then mix it up with another tune. But that's one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, Sex Machine's one I've done a lot with. Another one is right, and then the rhythm guitar part comes in. I love Steely Dan. I think those guys were so great. I saw them in Wellington, and they were just killer with Keith Carlock and John Harrington and those guys, and got a chance to meet John afterwards, because Jim Pugh was playing trombone, and I'd done a tour with Jim Pugh, so he kind of hooked us all up. Met Keith Carlock very briefly, but I saw that Lauren Ellis, the drummer, was hanging around, so it was her chance to have a chat with him, I thought. So that was pretty cool. And she got that moment, and I got to chat with John Harrington quite a bit, and those guys were just, it's such great music, Kid Charlemagne is one of my favorites too. That's just killer guitar playing. The way he plays those changes and the sound and phrasing. I actually played that at the NAMM show at the Vertex booth. Mason organised a guitar and an amp for me. He had a Dumble there, of all things, would you believe it? An actual Dumble. I didn't play through that though. We used a deluxe because Larry Carlton had used a deluxe, a little tweed deluxe like this. But he had an original one the same year as Larry Carlton's, and he had a 335, a Gibson 335. I think it was a 67 or a 65, whichever one Larry Carlton's is. He had the same one and the same, I think it was in the same colour too. No, his was red, whereas Larry's was sunburst. And then, of course, I had one of his pedals, so we used that, and we did a demo to show that, you know, you can get that same sound using that equipment that he had in showing his pedal, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, huge Steely Dan fan. That's just a little bit of fun. Thanks, Brenda. Hope you're well. Ryan, any blues songs you recommend that are good for rhythm, or maybe just learning in general? Yeah. Some of the best stuff you can do is like those old Fabulous Thunderbirds things, or any of that kind of stuff that's almost like riff based, you know. You know that old chestnut? Any of those kinds of tunes are really, really good to just play along to. They have a simple kind of riff type part. So, I mean, B.B. King, Freddie King, I mean, any of the Kings, Albert King, Freddie King, B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan tunes, you know. Need the fast tremolo for that. This sort of thing. You know, play along with those tracks. They're great. So Stevie Ray Vaughan, heaps of guys. Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson, not so much. I mean, those were more kind of solo things. But you know, in terms of playing along, I mean, by all means, listen to it. But playing along to it's not so useful for a lot of people. Can I explain that Schofield trick where he pushes the string off the fret to get that raspy sound? Do you mean like this? If that's what you mean, I think he just pulls the string off. He does all kinds of whack techniques, right? That are pretty cool. That are kind of unique. It's like he's tried to find his own way of doing things. You know, playing down by the bridge. He's playing down here, you know, and it sounds, a lot of jazz guitar players do the opposite. They're trying to play down here, but he's always been someone who's looking for his own voice. So I guess that's what you mean, is kind of pulling the string off the fretboard to get that rasp sound. Yeah, I mean, give me an exact example, like of a tune, and I'll try and explain it. Best way to learn scales, arpeggios. This is for swan bass. Best way to learn scales, arpeggios, fingerings around the neck. I don't know that there is a best way. There's the kind of the way I've done it, but there's loads of other ways. Other people have different methods. I kind of started, like if I'm learning G major, right, shape number 1, then shape number 2. Right, and then those two connect and there's no holes. I really like having all the semitones on the same string too. That's one of the criteria for how I'm looking at a shape. Right, and so out of that I have, you know, I've essentially covered the whole neck, and then it would repeat again. Then of course learning 3 note per string. So on, 4 note. Learning them along 1 string. And everywhere. And that's a really good way to kind of get you started. And then of course learning patterns out of them. You know, thirds and then fourths. Fifths. 6, 7s, octaves, 9ths, 10ths. You know, any way you can kind of get inside those is going to be good. And then, of course, do it a lot, you know. Put some backing tracks on and just play with this stuff and use it and see what works and try and create music and analyze what other people have done. You know, if other people are soloing with this stuff and they're using certain notes in certain ways, well, you know, take that bit and make it your own, and then, you know, then you can use it in all your tunes instead of just one, you know, so that could be useful. Thoughts on the William Levitt method? Yeah, it's good. Those William Levitt books are great. They're really good. I know a lot of people use them as sight reading work, but I think that's kind of wasting what's in there, because there's a lot of really, really good material. Those duets and things and the arpeggios and the way he kind of presents stuff. And I mean, that's one of the biggest selling guitar methods of all time, probably for good reason. So I think everybody should get them. And that complete method for guitar, I think you can buy all 3 as one book now. When I bought them each individually years ago. But I think buy them as a complete book, and it's cheaper. And then you got them, it's kind of like about this thick, but you know, it's pretty cool. But he's a great teacher. He taught a lot of great players. So he's got his methods down. Hello from Panama. Greetings. How does Eric Johnson get those sounds from open intervals? Can you give me a little more info on what you mean by that? Do you mean some of the chord voicings he uses, or are you meaning when he solos? Because he does do some stuff like... where he'll do the kind of wider interval things, but then also he uses a lot of really adventurous chords. I don't know. I mean, I've listened to quite a bit of Eric Johnson, but I've never really figured out or transcribed a lot of his stuff. It's not really a sound that I've been going for in terms of what he plays, but I respect him a lot. And I mean, Manhattan's a great tune, and his Cliffs of Dover and stuff like that. Man, he's a great guitar player. He's really, really good. But it's definitely not kind of what I've been going for. You know what I mean? He's more on the rock end of it, and I kind of like the guys that are sort of more in the middle, jazz fusiony guys like Mike Stern and Sco and Pat Metheny and Bill Frisell. I love Bill Frisell. So anyway, let me know more, and any blues songs you recommend that's good for rhythm or just learn in general? So the first part of that I answered, but the second half, so any tunes to learn in general, I think anything that inspires you. There's so much great music out there. Go hunting for it. Look for stuff that you want to learn. Like, I find that every time I try and learn something, there's a tune that I remember someone called on a jam session one time. This great American guitar player, and we just played in my office at the university when I used to teach there, and he called a tune and I didn't know the tune, and so I went back and I tried to make myself learn it, but I just didn't like the tune, and it was just hard work to learn it. And I learned it enough that I could wing it now, but I haven't worked on it because I just don't like the tune. It doesn't make any sense for me to spend any time working on something that, one, only someone's called once, but two, also that I just don't like it. So learn something you like what music do you want to do? What I would say about that, though, is this, if you want to be a jazz guitar player, for example, you got to know the jazz repertoire. So find out what that is and listen to it, and find, if you find that you don't like any of the jazz standards, well, jazz probably isn't for you then, right? But maybe you like blues, so learn some of the blues standards. And if you find those aren't for you, then maybe rock's for you. Like, everybody's path is different, but you got to know the music that came before you, or everything you're playing is not really going to make any sense. I've never seen anybody do it without doing that step anyway. And also, it's fun learning tunes, isn't it? I like that probably more than anything else I get to do in practice. I mean, that's one thing that's been cool with this lockdown, this whole situation now, is it's given me a chance to learn more tunes. Because often I'm just learning tunes for the next gig. It's not tunes I want to know. It's like I've got to do, whatever it might be. Well, we've been going for an hour, 10 minutes. I hope this is okay, people. Maybe I should sign off soon. Yeah, Eric, Crossroads is a great tune. You mean that tune? That riff thing? It's a great tune. And Clapton's just a great player. So again, if you want to play the blues, you got to know about Clapton, because he's one of the great English white blues, I'd say blues rock, but one of the great English blues rock players. So you got to know about him. It's like wanting to play blues and not knowing about Robert Johnson. You got to know, you know what I mean? What's a good way to learn, practice jazz standards, and then end up being able to improvise confidently over them? I kind of went over that earlier, but I just say learn the melody first and learn it thoroughly in multiple positions, and then get deep with the harmony, get inside that, get it memorized, and then play it in another key. And once you've done that much, and learn a solo version where you can play the melody and the chords together, so you have an understanding of how that works. Then do some change running, all those usual stuff you do. By then you should be pretty confident. Confidence comes from having done your homework, doesn't it? Most of the time, like with anything really. So if you've done 20 20 weeks of working on one particular standard, you're going to be pretty confident in your ability to get up and play it, right? Whereas if you've done 2 weeks of working on a standard, you're not going to be as confident. So that's all it really comes down to. It's just time. There's no other way, and doing a lot of work on it. What are some of my favorite jazz standards to play? It changes all the time. I really like Alone Together. That's a tune I'll call a lot. Because it's I really like that it's an odd number of bars. I like that it goes from minor into major. It's got a cool bridge section. I really like Whisper Not. I really like... So here's 10 I'll give you that you guys should learn if you don't know these tunes, if you're into jazz. So Whisper Not, Alone Together, There Will Never Be Another You. It's another one I like playing. Isotope, Joe Henderson. I played Black Narcissus, Joe Henderson before. That's a cool tune. Out of Nowhere I like playing. That's a great tune. Nice harmony. Days of Wine and Roses. Summertime. And, people say, I'm so bored with Summertime. That's a load of rubbish. It's like there's an infinite amount of possibilities on that tune. And, if you're bored with it, you're lacking imagination. That's all that is. So try playing it in another key, or try playing it in 3/4, playing it in 5, or playing it, half the speed melody or whatever. Like mess with it, and then you'll find new possibilities out of it. Anyway, Summertime. What's another tune I really like playing? Gee, I can never think of tunes when I get put on the spot. Oleo. Really like playing Oleo, and All the Things You Are. There you go. How's that? I haven't planned anything. I haven't planned any live streams. I'm thinking I might do these kind of regularly. I've been thinking about doing that for a while, and just haven't had time. You get caught up with 50 million gigs and teaching and whatever else. But now that the whole situation's changed, it's probably going to be similar to this. We're not, once we come out of this lockdown, it's going to be still some level of mass gatherings being banned and all that kind of stuff. So maybe I'll do these once a week. If people are interested, let me know. I'll do it once a week. I'm happy to do it, for an hour. Is this time good? Maybe I could do it earlier. So some people, I know for people in the UK, this is a bad time. It's the middle of the night. So maybe I'll do an earlier time in New Zealand time so that it's better for everyone. I don't know. Let me know. I'd be keen to do it. Yeah, I mean, maybe both, do them just when I get time. And I've always kind of done Facebook like that, Facebook live streams, just do them kind of randomly whenever I kind of feel motivated more than anything. Tips for improvising over changes. Okay, tips for improvising over jazz tunes for someone who's more used to playing over rock. Right, so check out my minor pentatonic lesson that's on YouTube. That'll be really useful for you because I'm sure as a rock player you'll know minor pentatonic, and that's some easy ways to play to play some substitutions using pentatonics. Will make you automatically kind of sound like you got a bit more of a clue kind of what's going on. So start there, the other thing I'd say is start listening to some players who play kind of on the verges of that rock jazz stuff. Sco's a great example, and if you don't dig his playing, then Mike Stern is another one, who plays kind of on that verge of rock and jazz, and check out some Mike Stern and see if you can find some things out of that are useful. Yes, I do Skype lessons, so look me up on Facebook and just send me a message. It's probably the easiest, or email me, nick@nickgranville.com. Or go to my website, nickgranville.com, and just send me a message on there, whichever. But yeah, I do Skype lessons. And the Skype lessons pretty much set up like this. I have a mic for my voice, mic on the amp, computer, I can see everything. It'll pretty much be the same kind of setup. Someday my prince will come. I haven't played that tune for 50 million years, so I'm not going to embarrass myself with playing it crappily. It is a great tune, though. I mean, if you want to hear a great version of that, go and check out. Is that the one that Julian Lage and Martin Taylor do? If it is, go and check out them doing it, because they'll do it way better than I'm ever going to do it. How big that this is just a little 20-watt deluxe. I don't know what that's coming through to you guys, but to me here it's like really big. I reckon these little 20-watt deluxes, or they're 15 sometimes, depends on the speaker you use and how you have it set up, but these are some of the best amps ever made, the Tweed Deluxe. And there's a trick that I heard from someone that said, if you ever play a Tweed Deluxe, don't turn the volume up over 3, because it just kind of gets a bit flabby, and I think that's definitely good advice. Between 3 and 3.5 is probably about your top of what you can get away with. That's the edge of breakup, right? Very different than a Bassman. I've got a Bassman, and it's that you can turn it up to 6 and it's still clean. So yeah, it's different things. I hope I've answered everybody's questions. It's a beautiful tune. Pat Metheny. You guys know that one? What should I play? I'll do one more thing and then I'm gonna sign out, because this has been going for over an hour. An hour 20 minutes. Jeez, you guys must be sick of my voice by now. Hope this is useful to people. I mean, my whole thought process behind doing this at the moment is just, we're all kind of hanging out and everybody's here bored, so hopefully I can offer something to people that would be useful to them. That's the only reason for doing it. Okay, best way to transcribe use those licks and solos. Okay, so if you have any licks you want to learn, the best way to transcribe it, there's actually a program called Transcribe, and it'll make your life a lot easier. It's a paid app, it's not free, but it's maybe like $40-$50. And with that app you can slow down the music, right, which is not that unusual. You can do that in YouTube and different things. But the cool thing with it is you can set up markers along the waveform, so you can isolate exactly where the chorus is. or say the one bar that you want to learn, then you can loop it. You can create a little loop around that section. You can EQ it, so you can get rid of all the bass frequencies, and they have all these EQ presets, things like, you know, bass remove or remove alto voice or whichever, and so the EQ frequencies are targeted towards certain instruments, and that really helps a lot. I transcribed this Joe Zawinul thing a while ago, and it was a really old recording from the 60s. It was actually Cannonball Adderley, but it was a tune called Jessica's Birthday, and I wanted to figure out what that tune was about. It's a great tune. Check it out on YouTube. But yeah, Jessica's Birthday, and the recording was so bad you couldn't hear the bass, right? So what I did was I went into Transcribe and I EQ'd the bass, so the bass was prominent and everything else was as much as I could get it to go, and I could actually make out some of the notes. And I wrote out the notes that I could figure out, and then there was like about 5 of them missing, but I just made an educated guess at what they were. If it's going from C down to A, well, it's probably a B in between, or if you're in the key of C or whatever. So Transcribe really helps. Where can people donate? Buy my record. That's the best thing you can do. Buy that. It's on Bandcamp. It's free if you want. I realize people haven't got money, so if you haven't got money, then just, you know, pay nothing for it, but listen to the music, and that's cool. This is with Ben Shepherd and Dylan Ellis. So some great Kiwi musicians who are in LA. That's better than donating. Do that. And if you can afford to, pay 10 cents for it, pay $10, whatever you want. Thanks for doing this for us all. Oh, thanks, Lee. Miss you, man. There's some cool stuff going around on YouTube and all these things at the moment, so you know, it's really cool that people are contributing, and the Tom Bukovac stuff has been really inspiring, and Leyland Sklar's been doing these things on YouTube, and I saw Brian May and all kinds of people. It's really cool. I'm going to play one more tune. I'll play Alone Together because someone asked about that earlier. Yeah. Just do that with a volume pedal. I have a volume pedal. So do you utilize chord scale theory while playing, or the chord tone way? Both, all of it. As I said before, when I solo and play gigs or play performances, like I'm treating this kind of like a performance a bit. I'm not thinking about any of that stuff, to be honest. I'm just trying to follow the melody and follow what's going on. If I'm playing with other people, which is, I don't usually what I do. I don't really like playing solo that much. Because I like playing with people. To me, music's all about people. It's not about me. It's like contributing to a group. So, but when I'm playing with people, I'm reacting to what they're doing and trying to make them sound good as I can. And if taking care of business, if there's if the time's moving around, then I'm reacting and I'll lock the time down if that needs to happen. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes there's not much you can do about that. It's just gonna. It doesn't have to be metronomic anyway. So when I'm playing, I'm not really thinking about any of that. I'm just trying to play and create something and make music. But then also, when I practice, I do think about chords and how they relate to scales, chord-scale relationship. To me, that's not the be-all and end-all, though. I think a lot of people get too hung up on that. And universities especially get very hung up on that because they... For a university, it's an easy thing to teach, isn't it? You show someone a C major chord and you go, this is C Lydian and these are the notes. And, something like groove is much harder to teach, isn't it? It's not like you can teach someone to feel a groove. They have to have it in here and be able to, there's certain things that you have to kind of do for yourself. Anyway, so the answer is yes and no. I do work on that stuff when I practice, but then when I play, I don't. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to look at improvisation. I mean, chord scale relationships useful, arpeggios are useful, transcribing is useful, although you don't have to do too much of that. I think some people think if you do 10,000 transcriptions, you're going to be amazing, and that isn't the case at all. Because I know people who've done loads of them for magazines or whatever, and they can't play for shit. So you got to look at it and go, well, I mean, transcribing's useful, but you've got to be able to draw that material out of those transcriptions, or otherwise it's just notes on a piece of paper. And you also have to be able to utilize it and absorb it and all those sort of factors. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Anyway, I'm going to sign off because this has been ages. This has been an hour and a half. I didn't expect I'd go this long, so I hope I haven't bored you guys to death with my stuff. Drinking Corona beer at an odd time like this. So anyway, stay safe, people, and thanks so much for doing this. If people are interested, let me know. I'll do these more regularly. I'm happy to do once a week or something. It could be just fun to kind of check in and do this. And I like YouTube, I think, best for this. I've done some on Facebook, and I probably will again, but I like YouTube because I think Facebook's getting a bit toxic at the moment. I saw someone today posting about how all the stats were wrong, that people aren't dying of coronavirus. Can you believe that? It's like, look at all the shit we're all going through, and all these people were dying, and he's saying, well, no, they would have died anyway because they had underlying health conditions. And it's like, shut the fuck up, man. I mean, I can't put that any other way than that, right? Because So yeah, anyway, Facebook's getting a bit toxic. There's a lot of that, and a lot of misinformation, and a lot of just stupid people in lockdown. They're going a bit crazy. So anyway, I quite like YouTube because you don't get any of that kind of stuff, and it doesn't get political. And yeah, so I'll probably do more of these on YouTube, maybe once a week if people are interested in that. Maybe on a Monday night in New Zealand, which would be a Sunday elsewhere. Let me know. Let me know what time suits. Anyway, take care, and yeah, I do Skype lessons as I mentioned before, so just message me on Facebook if you want to book one in. I got heaps of time at the moment because there's nothing else, no gigs, right? So yeah, message me on Facebook is probably the easiest, or my website, nickgranville.com. Take care, people. Cheers.